Morning, Val.
Hey, Dawn. Good
Good morning,
morning,
sir.
everyone.
How are you?
Morning.
Doing good. Hope you are.
Yes, sir.
Good, good. Give everybody a minute or two to get in. Hope you're all doing well this morning. Thank you all for joining us for Town Hall #1, as we are bringing the band back together and using that phraseology. So we've got about 20 some odd that were in the queue. It looks like most are in. Some are on camera. Valerie, we got most folks in. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get started this morning. Good morning to you all. Welcome. Hope you're having a good week. Happy March. I'm glad we survived February. The weather over the weekend got me really, really ready for spring and summer and changes and different dynamics. And of course, I know the weather's a little cooler today, but no rain. At least we're not supposed to get rain this weekend, or at least that's what I heard on the way over this morning. So let me get into what is really not an agenda, but tell you what we're going to do today. We've been actively working on what it looks like as we are trying to continue to transition through the different phases of this pandemic successfully. And you all know that a year ago March, we were in a very, very different situation. We were at the very beginning of what I don't even think we recognized as serious a pandemic as it ended up. Of course, I think it was getting on our radar in February, and by March, several of us were in Raleigh about this time last year, and things started shutting down as we got the first cases in North Carolina, and it became very evident that it was going to change life over a short term at least. Well, here we are a year later, and life is still changed. We haven't gotten back to normal, whatever normal means. People have certainly had their share of issues with things like phrases like the new normal. And I kind of have gotten sick of that too. I don't know what that means. It just means what it is today, I suppose. So as we were a year ago, I was reflecting on this in anticipation of these town halls and thinking a year ago, we were in a way, a very different situation in that we didn't know how dangerous this thing was going to be, how long we were going to be down. I think the optimistic thought was we'll shut down for a few weeks. We will do what we need to do, and then we'll be back by the time the semester's over and, we'll be ready for summer school. Well, obviously that did not pan out as we have stretched into now getting close to the start of the second year of disruption for College of the Albemarle. So where does that leave us? What does that look like going forward? So obviously we have the immunizations that are out. I heard that something like, 60, 80,000 doses of the third immunization are headed to North Carolina. That's the one shot. I believe it's Johnson & Johnson. Doesn't have to be cooled down to the extreme temperatures that the first two had to be cooled down to. We are 20% of North Carolinians, adult North Carolinians, have been vaccinated, have been immunized, and the numbers are as low as they've been in a while, and they have been declining, although they've leveled off a little bit over the last 7-day rolling period. So we have good news, not so good news, perhaps, in that decline has lessened over the last week or so. We know we're not at the end of whatever journey we're on, and this has been a journey. Obviously, it hasn't been a destination. We haven't gotten to point Z and decided that we are done and we can get off the train. I decided I wanted off the train a long, long time ago. I'm so tired of COVID, I can't see straight, but it is what it is, and we have to learn to deal with it, and we have to make sure that we're doing what we can to be protective of our faculty, staff, and students, but also moving the institution forward in a very positive way. So positive things on the horizon, but some negative things. The same thing is true wherever you look, whether that's inside of COA in the dynamic in which COA operates. I mean, obviously, locally, we have 2 new buildings coming online in the next year. We have Currituck that will be programmed this fall, and we took a tour. Several of us took a tour of that recently, and it's going to be a fantastic facility. We get to program a good portion of it already, and we get some more access to the Emergency Operations Center when it's not being used for emergencies. So it's going to be a fantastic place. The DARE facility should be actually substantially complete December, January. So this school year coming, we should have 2 new facilities coming online, 3 if you count the support building that's out in front of the Currituck facility, COA Currituck. We just made a presentation to the Pasquotank County Commission on the need for a nursing allied health simulation facility of about 25,000 square feet, about a $13–14 million ask. They were very receptive. They didn't write a check. We're not out cashing the check yet, but they were receptive to that. We have a lot of good things that are on the horizon. The unknown is, what's this pandemic going to continue to do? What's going to happen with the variants? Are they going to create some challenges for us? Are the immunizations going to hold up as the variants become more and more prevalent in the wild, so to speak? So as we watch that and look at that and watch it unfold before us, there are a tremendous number of unknowns still going forward. So we recognize that. And certainly what we're trying to do is put together a plan so that we can continue to monitor what's happening in the world today, but make sure that we are still moving forward in the idea that we're going to get back to whatever the new normal, whatever the future normal, whatever the next step of our evolution looks like as COA. Obviously, there's been a sea change. There's been a dynamic shift in the environment because of COVID, and we're going to have to be evolving. We're an evolving institution. We're an evolving species, actually, if you think about it. Pressures create evolutionary changes and adaptive changes, and we are adapting and evolving as an institution, as individuals, as a society. So what does that mean for COA, and why are we having these town halls? Why are we looking to bring the band back together? Well, a couple of things. Let's talk about the financial landscape for just a minute. Obviously, you all will be getting a bonus check here soon, and we were glad we were able to do that. We also, and a number of colleges have done that. So we're thankful that we were among those, and others are looking to do that as well. Not many have looked to do a pay increase, and you all know that we actually have a pay increase for eligible employees that we're going to put into place the end of this fiscal year. And obviously that's a tremendous amount of money that carries over into the next year and subsequent years, et cetera. So that's a big commitment on the part of the college, and I'm thankful to the Board of Trustees for approving that and for seeing that that is needed here among our staff and faculty. And obviously with that came a staff salary plan that hasn't been looked at in a long time. So we're going to adjust that and make sure that that is something that we can try to do moving forward. Last year, this year, actually, we got about $1 million, I'm speaking round terms, we got about $1 million of growth money because of the growth that had been occurring at COA. Obviously, you all know probably that North Carolina community colleges are funded in arrears. So the decline in enrollment this year, which has been about average for the North Carolina community college system, and probably a little above average in South Carolina and about better than average nationally. So we are kind of middle of the road, I guess is what I'm saying, even in the state and then across other parts of the country. We were down 6% in credit enrollment, about a little more than that, 7.5%, I believe the final number was, give or take. In spring enrollment, And so that's not great, but it's better than it could have been. So I appreciate the efforts that you've all made. And let me say that I try to say that every time we're together. Folks, I know where we are because of you. You all have been steadfast in your support of students and changing the dynamic of what we do, reinventing the college, evolving, as I said a few minutes ago, our functions, our features, our faculty and staff interactions, everything has been in flux and changing. But we gained $1 million. We're standing to lose about $1 million next year. So because of the decline, we are asking as a system that we're not calling it hold harmless, but it's stabilization funds of the legislature. That is not to bring us back to where we started the year, however, it's to bring us back part of the way. So we won't get, even if the legislature gives us additional monies, it won't get us back to where we were at the start of the year. We do have federal money that we've been able to use to do meet some of the needs that you all have. We've certainly been able to give students some additional funds through financial aid, and Angie and her folks have done a tremendous job along with Susan and her folks to make sure that this gets distributed to students. We have additional monies that will be distributed to students through HERF 2 and HERF 3, Higher Education Emergency Relief Funds is what HERF stands for. I think, if not, I just made it up and it's close. HERF 3 is being debated now, and we could get some additional monies that of course have strings and all sorts of things tied to that. So, good news, bad news, that's kind of the trend. You start to take a step forward and think this is wonderful, this is great, we're heading in a good direction, and then something else, another shoe drops. So but overall, the college has weathered the storm very well. We haven't had reductions in force. We haven't had to do anything with full-time permanent positions. And that's great. And that's the way we'd like to keep it, right? We want to make sure that we're as healthy as we can be moving forward, and that we are paying folks appropriately for the work that they do, which is why we adjusted the salary plan and why we ask the Board of Trustees for an increase. So before I leave the budget, though, a couple of other trends I think that we need to be aware of. North Carolina, as you know, they haven't had a budget since before I was here. So I have no idea. Susan's been very patient with me. I have no idea what normal budgeting and budget processes and the normal North Carolina looks like. All of my time has been in COVID time, and there was not a budget when I got here. There's not likely to be a budget. Well, I shouldn't say that. They're hopeful that there will be a budget coming forward and that will be agreed on. But the more and more debate that happens, obviously, the more evident the chasm. So I don't know if there'll even be a budget next year. We may have some continuing resolution type spending, continuing the current budget. So predictions were for the state to be way down in revenues. Obviously, that wasn't the case. We ended up with, I think the number was 4.1 billion, above over $4 billion over the estimate. So North Carolina is in a pretty good place financially. Does that mean that they will give us stability funds? No, it does not. In fact, the idea in Raleigh is that there's not a lot of reception to that right now. They love you, they love us, they support us, but maybe not that much. So their attitude in large part is, if you want to show us that you're important, make sure that you get students enrolled, and those students that you lost, get them back. So that sounds a little harsh, but I kind of understand that. I get it. We do have federal money. They know that, and we're hopeful that we can do some transformative things with technology and some other things in the classroom and around our campus. But of course, if we have to plug financial gaps with that money instead of using it for a transformational purpose, we would rather do that and save jobs, obviously, right? Than do something more transformational with the technology. The other good news, I feel like I am Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I'll give you good news, bad news, kind of good cop, bad cop, all rolled into one. The other good thing I think that's happening in the legislature right now is, you may have seen this, and I think I've shared it, but if I haven't, we need to, although it's being revised now, and that is the consensus legislative priorities that the North Carolina Community College Presidents and Presidents Association and Trustees Association have worked on. And that's not new this year, that happens every year, but one of those priorities is a pay raise for faculty and staff. If you look at the numbers, obviously faculty and staff pay has been left behind where other states are, and even in North Carolina, state employees have gotten increases that community college employees have not received. So that's not good. So one of the priorities is to make sure that we get additional pay increases for faculty and staff. The ask was for 5% pay raise across the North Carolina Community College system. Well, they aren't talking about 5% right now. What they're talking about, believe it or not, is somebody has, I think a couple of different bills have been introduced to award 7% to faculty and staff of North Carolina community colleges. So again, good news that they love you and they want to give you more money. Bad news is they can't agree, and it may not happen because of the intransigence of just where we are with the political season. So I have hope that things are going to, be funded fully, and the raise will be, I'd love to see a 7% pay raise for all of you, on top of the pay raise we were able to do locally. So that becomes a significant increase in a few short months, and that would be wonderful. But what is our part in all of this? What do we have to do? Why are we talking about bringing the band back together? We can't take another year like we had last year. We did great relatively, but we didn't do great absolutely. We've got to make sure that we stem the tide and stop losing students. And we're just talking about a gross, large, number of students, 6%, but it misses some of the dynamic that's there. We know that first-time freshmen are disappearing from community colleges. That's gonna pay negative dividends along the way. We know that our students of color have disappeared at a higher rate than others. And we can't continue those slides. We are here to serve those that need us most in the community. And we've got to find a way to do that. So we have started this Bring the Band Back Together a couple of times, not calling it that. And then bad news would slow us down. We had a plan to bring us back in the fall. And of course, we started getting worse and things got scarier before they got better. But here's where I am and the leadership team is and the Board of Trustees members are. And that is, we are doing great at what we had to do, but it is not a long-term solution to who we have to be to serve our 7-county area. So we've got to find a way to bring us back, to get more face-to-face courses, to get more time together as colleagues, to come up with solutions to make sure that we are adapting to the environment in which we find ourselves living. No, we didn't choose this location. We didn't choose what happened, but we have to find a way to prosper in it. And in talking to other presidents across the system, they're in very similar places, although many of them have been back full-time on campus for months now. Some are where we are and some are less on campus than we are, depending upon their area of the state and what's going on in their particular environment, microenvironment. So we asked you all for questions, and we're going to send out some frequently asked questions and answers to the best of our ability after our 3 town halls. But what I didn't want to do today was sit up here and say, Question one that came in says, blah, 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 here's our response. I don't think that's a great use of time and resources. But I am going to give you time to ask questions here in a couple of minutes. But let me address some of the themes that I have identified and I think I see in the questions. And then we'll open it up and you can ask me questions. The leadership team is here. Excuse me, in case you know, there's something specific to HR or payroll or whatever. And there are some questions that just don't have answers at this point. We're living in a gray world. It is not the black and white, yes, no, binary world that some of you are more comfortable in. And we just don't know the answers to some of the things that are coming. You know, the variants, the new shot, how many people are going to be immunized along the way. But let me get into some of these themes. One is, and I'm going to paraphrase. I'm going to give you the Bagwellian paraphrase instead of trying to quote or give you the exact verbiage of what was said. But the theme, I would say, was, well, don't you care about us anymore? Why would you want us to come back to a dangerous environment? Well, I don't believe that's what we're asking. We're looking for a slow increase of the number of folks who are here. And folks, there have been people on campus since day one. We haven't closed campus. Some of you have been here every day. I've been here almost every day. I've probably teleworked 2 complete days over the last year. Now, I've had times out of the office, and most of my time is in or around the office. So I don't believe it to be as dangerous as some might, but I recognize that my health is different than yours. So we certainly are going to ask you to work with HR if you have extenuating circumstances that would keep you from working face-to-face or in an environment where you would be in more contact with individuals. But we can't wait until we're ready to come back to find that out. That's why we are looking for a slow increase and getting back to normal over a ramp-up period as we bring the band back together. Second theme, I would say, is something like this. Well, what's it going to look like when we come back? What's that going to mean? How am I going to meet with people in my office? That's why we need you back to work through some dynamics like that so we can figure that out, because one size does not fit all. We have to make sure that we know what that looks like and that we try it in small doses, if you will, so that when we have people back on campus, we know how that's going to work. If we need to get some more technology, we need to use some of this federal money to change offices in some way. I mean, the list is endless. We can't sit around as 8 or 9 people on the leadership team and say, Joe Blow in his office needs X and Susie Blow needs Y, because it's just a mental exercise that we can't go through without the experts. And you are the experts in your environment, in your discipline, in your areas. And we need to make sure that we are working through those dynamics with you. Another theme I would say that I have read in the questions or heard from others is, well, we've been doing good online. Why do you care where we teach our classes, faculty? Well, we've been doing okay. I wouldn't say we're doing great. We've lost some ground here. We've lost a percentage of our students. Our success rate is down a little, not a huge amount, but a little. And obviously, like I said, we're losing more and more of our students of color and first-time students. Both of those are just non-starters for me. We cannot afford to lose anybody. But you all know that first-time students, as they get started with us, and certainly we are trying to ramp up our recruitment efforts of all populations, and we certainly don't want to leave anybody behind. So we're not doing great. We're doing okay. We've been about average, as I said, and I'm proud of that, because we could have been far below average if we had not paid attention to what was going on, to what was happening, etc. So the question becomes, why can't I continue to do my work at home like I've done over the last year? I've done a great job. Well, you may have done a great job. We as a college haven't been great. We've been good. We've been sufficient to the challenge. In fact, we've bettered the challenge in a lot of ways, and I'm proud of what we've done. So don't hear me say something I'm not saying. But it is not the sustainable action that keeps us moving forward and keeps us fiscally sound so that we can address more and more needs in our 7-county service area. So we're going to have to figure out what that looks like moving forward. And along those lines, people will say, well, we reinvented the college, didn't we? Yes, we did, out of necessity and need. But so did every other community college, 1,199. There are 1,200 roughly community colleges in the country, 3,000 plus institutions of higher ed. A number of those in the Southern Association's region for regional accreditation. And, you know, everybody's gotten better. That's good for students, but it's also a threat to us. Because if we are just online and just online providing resources, a College of the Albemarle is never going to have the resources that a Wake Tech or CPCC or pick a college across the border, Tidewater or Northern Virginia or any college in the US now can provide online resources to students and maybe do a better job than us. They can teach online biology and maybe do as good a job as us. They can teach online, you name it. They're doing it. All of us are doing it. So the threat is that we got better. Yes, we did. And we're going to learn some lessons that are going to pay dividends long term. I'm convinced this is going to make us stronger in the end. But everybody else got better too. Everybody else got more aggressive. Everybody else is losing students locally, and we may be competing for that online presence. So that theme for questions also, I think, I see a theme that is a corollary as we are doing our strategic planning sessions. And when we ask the folks in our communities what sets us apart, I have yet to hear anybody say the excellent online services that you provide. What they've said is the personality, the people, the connections to the community, the ability to walk in and see somebody that I know, that I can relate to, that understands Northeast North Carolina and its needs. So you see, there's a disconnect between those two. If we want to separate ourselves and be online largely, we're missing what our community says they need of us, I think. And I think that's what's going to be our strategic edge as we try to recruit more of these students. Do we want to become an online institution? I don't think that's our calling. Do we have to do more online? We've done a lot online. We need to make sure that we're balancing that, and where the balancing point is, the tipping point, I don't know. I have no way of knowing at this point. But I'm convinced, and in my gut, and don't ignore your gut, folks, your gut will typically lead you along a path you need to be exploring. My gut says that if we abdicate our position as the community leader, we're not going to be the same institution going forward. We're not going to have the same support for these building processes, for our programs, for our fundraising. You know, in a pandemic, folks, we're raising 6-figure gifts for naming rooms in Dare County and in Currituck. People are giving 6 figures to put their names on rooms. I'm amazed that's where we are, but it's not because of me. It's not because of the pandemic. It didn't slow down because of the pandemic, thank goodness. It's because of the product that this college has produced for 60 years. It's because of the support that this college has provided the community for 60 years. It's because of the educational opportunities that have been afforded to the residents of these counties for 60 years that we're able to use that money to provide furniture, fixtures, equipment for our new facilities, but also to do programming things, to add new programs. We have added CDL this year. This was a kind of an odd year to add anything, But that's not the last program we want to add. Robin Harris and her folks have a whole list of allied health related programs we would like to rotate through our campuses. We need to do some more in CDL. Michelle Waters and Robin Zinsmeister and I were at an economic development opportunity announcement discussion, I don't know what to call it, Friday night, about something that could bring some training and some new opportunities to Currituck. And Michelle and Robin Harris and Robin Zinsmeister had discussed some things with this company, I guess, years ago. So this is a long time happening process. But let me say that just so you can hear that again. I thought about this on the way in. Michelle, Robin, and I walked into a meeting Friday night. I don't know what time that meeting started, 5:30, something like that. Friday, got over about 7 Friday night. You know, face-to-face activities have continued, folks. Your deans and your department chairs and your leadership team members are out in the community meeting with folks because we have to. We can't just call in and be part of a conversation and think that we're going to be active players in the community efforts. And that's kind of where we are as a community college. We have to be the community's college. So other themes, I would say, are related to those that I've already mentioned. How are we going to do things? What is the specifics behind? Why are we trying to bring the band back together? I think I've tried to express that to the best of my ability, and I will certainly try to address any other questions going forward. Let me put before I open it up to questions, Dr. Carter, Chris Burris, Valerie, Dean, Ella, other deans that are on here, Lisa, Michelle, Robin Harris, I saw her a minute ago, now I don't see her somewhere. Anybody, Susan, Gentry, anything, other themes that you want me to address or that we talked about that I'm forgetting off the top of my head?
I just want to say, Dr. Bagwell, that the Division of Learning, and I know with the support from Student Services, really has been doing a lot to get us where we need to be. And I do concur with you that I think our students want to be back, and we certainly want to see more of the faculty and staff back. I think that we're missing all of you as well. And I know that in this pandemic, I am very, very proud of what has been happening and how we initiated an online mentor group, and just about every faculty member full-time has been mentored by somebody else to be able to look at their online classes to see what it is they're doing and what they might be able to improve. And I think that that has been one of the many things that faculty have done. So I just wanted to put a plug in for them.
No, I agree with you. I think we've done some amazing things that are going to translate very well, and I'm proud of those things. I really am. We've done a tremendous job to move forward and not just maintain in some areas. So I couldn't agree more. Other thoughts from the leadership team? Let me, while they're thinking that through, certainly interrupt me, folks. I thought of something else I wanted to say. I hope you recognize that we have tried to do everything we could do and we knew to do to keep you safe during the time that we've had over the last year. We've also inconvenienced our facilities folks and our health science folks and our recruitment folks by having large scale immunization events on this campus at the beginning of this semester. And I did that for several reasons. One, we want to be the community's college, and we want to support the colleges or the community's efforts and our partners at Albemarle Regional Health Services. That's a given. But I also hoped it would open the door for as many of you who wanted an immunization to get an immunization. And it did. We had a number of people who were able to avail themselves even in the open clinics. And then they did a special clinic for us. When Ella surveyed, I think it was about testing, we asked how many of you had taken a shot. Now, this is not 100% of people didn't respond to the survey, but 68% of those of you who responded to the survey had taken the immunization. Folks, we are well immunized compared to the average population of North Carolina. This area has done really, really well. We still have colleagues. I still have folks that I talk to who are just now lining their first shots up. So we got about 68% of survey respondents who have been immunized. And by the way, I told the leadership team yesterday that one of the county managers is going to try to organize another clinic so that our folks can get over and participate in that. And we're going to be in the priority list coming up. So everybody who wants an immunization should be able to get one, and they're showing themselves to be very effective. But when I talk to other presidents in other areas, they haven't had shot one. Very few of their folks have had an immunization on campus, but they're still back. And in fact, some of them back more than us. So, we have tried to do everything we could do to align the stars, if you will, and to influence the alignment of the stars. But I did hear through the grapevine that somebody communicated that they didn't get their immunization because they thought we weren't coming back to work. We are coming back. I want you to understand that the goal is to get back. I have said every time I've been with you that I miss seeing you, that I don't like only knowing some of you as a little, 2x2 box on the screen. I've been here 15 months now. It's March 2nd, right? 15 months. And, some of you I've only met online, and we haven't even crossed paths in the hallways. And I don't think that's an appropriate, it's been appropriate for this year, but I don't think that's the goal of a community college, is to only see people on the screen and not connect with them. So leadership team, I didn't see anybody raising or flagging me down. So let's open it up to questions, comments, and we will do our best to address them. Again, we're going to be sending out an FAQ after our 3 sessions. I think the third one is tomorrow. The second one's this afternoon. The third one's tomorrow. So probably end of the week, first of next week, we'll have some updates to the return to work document that we've updated about 1,000 times now. We're going to update it and provide FAQ information to the best of what we know right now. So, questions, comments, concerns from the floor. Valerie can monitor the chat if you have something that you want to chat in, but certainly you're welcome to get on screen or audio.
I have a quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
In regards to the governor's recommendations for group gatherings and things like that, on Friday, his update said that movie theaters and other places like that could have up to 250 people in their space. I was wondering when we can update that for the Performing Arts Center for the remainder of our season.
That's part of what we're talking about now. I think we're all going to be able to loosen some of those expectations, and the PAC has done a great job. Sandra, y'all have done a great job of being creative during this time, but there's no substitute for having people in person. So we're going to try to make sure that we update our guidelines going forward. We'll talk about that this week. We have not done that yet, but the governor has another announcement or another press conference this afternoon. So we'll monitor that too. But, things are loosening up a little bit, which will be nice to get some life back into our performing arts and other activities. So we haven't talked about that specifically yet, but when Amy gets back in the office and we have time to sit down and look at that, we'll actually update that, Sandra.
And just a shameless plug, because that's what I do. Our show does open this weekend. We are streaming over Showtix for you. It's $10. We'd really, really, really love your support because the fact that this college is doing any level of theater whatsoever is remarkable. Nationwide theaters have been ground to a halt, but we have maintained an aggressive performing schedule. And the fact that the Performing Arts Center has had students in the building all year long, and the fact that we're currently on our 4th of 5th productions. When we talk about community involvement and being a place for the community to be, this is a really crown jewel for that as far as being a cultural center. So we'd really love your support.
Well, I appreciate that plug, and I appreciate what you all have done. Just a quick note, we've got folks coming from the Belk Foundation, the Golden Leaf Foundation, EdNC, who will be on campus Thursday. They'll be on our Eatonton Chowan campus Wednesday evening. But one of the things that we've sent them, or we'll be sending them to highlight what we've been doing, Sandra, is that puppet interview session, how we've maintained our role in the community by being a support to the community and trying to maintain some normalcy. So you're right, we've done things, you all have done things, I haven't done things that are different, but to keep any level of performing arts going has been amazing, and we're highlighting that, and we're going to take them into the Performing Arts Center and talk about that and the importance that that plays to the College of the Albemarle and our mission here in Northeast North Carolina. So thank you all for what you've done.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments? Mariah, your box lit up, but I don't hear anything. So I don't know if that was you trying to get on or something else happened there.
Yeah, I'm sorry. What time will y'all be coming on Thursday? I'd like to make sure the building is ready for you.
I'll reach out to you privately, Mariah.
Thank you ever so much.
Any other questions or comments, concerns? Folks, I know you all, many of you have concerns, and we want to hear those, and I want you to put those in writing or express them. You know, I want to hear what those are, and we want to try to work around what those concerns are. But I do want to be clear that we are going to try to move back into a more traditional role for the community college and its faculty and staff. And we're going to be mindful of safety. We're going to be mindful of what the governor's recommendations are. We're going to be mindful of CDC recommendations as we have for the last year. But I don't want you to think I don't miss you and want you around. So we're looking to bring you all back into the family fold. Patrick.
I just wanted to say, you know, I've talked to some friends who work different places. Thank you for everything you've done to keep us safe. We have testing, vaccines, PPE, extra cleaning, you know, any accommodation we've needed to keep ourselves safe. And things are getting better. And as one of those who's been here every day, you know, I just think it's great that where we work has provided so much for us to be able to do it. And, you know, I just encourage everybody to come back because, you know, in terms of recruiting, we hear over and over, I don't want to take online classes all the time. Students are just tired of it. And, you know, I know having been here, things are different than they used to be, and we are doing what we need to do. But for our students' sake, they need to be in person.
Thank you, Patrick. Anybody else? Anything in the chat, Valerie? You have questions about anything in general? It's a town hall. I know you have other things that you could be doing, but certainly if you have questions about budget, I may not be able to answer them, but if Susan can make up an answer and let you, no, I'm sure Susan can answer it. I would make up an answer. But we've got great things going, folks, and it's an exciting time, and I've got a lot of support, but a lot of concerns still too. So I want to highlight just you know, the danger is highlighting anything because you leave somebody out, and that's not my intent, but Sandra's comments sort of prompted me to think about the other things that we have done, and Dr. Carter's comments. You know, we have done a tremendous work to keep moving forward, and it really is amazing if you think back, guys, if this would have hit us 5 years ago, 10 years ago, think what would have been done in a community college setting. It would have been a different environment. But we've got to maintain our you know, academic and institutional integrities. We've had 8 colleges, this is the number I heard the other day, 8 colleges that have been hit by ransomware attacks in the last year and a half. The biggest one to be hit is Central Piedmont. They've been basically shut down for the last couple of weeks. They haven't been able to process financial aid. They haven't been able to get on their learning management system. They haven't even been able to work because their telephones aren't working. So people are at home trying to work to the best of their ability. I'm not sure what they're able to do, using their personal phones, I suppose, to get in touch with students. Guys, it could get worse. We have to maintain our diligence to make sure that, we are as safe as we can be. And I appreciate Wayman and his folks, and Dean, you guys working to make sure our data and our technology resources are as secure as they can be. But, we're only one hack away from being dead in the water. Think about it. If we couldn't do online courses these things keep me up at night. So we've got to make sure that we're mindful of things beyond just the COVID human virus. There are viruses, computer viruses, and Trojan attacks, and worms, and hacking, and the list goes on. Other questions about budget, priorities, anything? I don't want to beat this to death, and I'll let you go, but I do want you to have the opportunity. Leadership team, anything else?
This is Chris Burris, and as I was listening to Dr. Bagwell and Dr. Carter, Patrick, and just Sandra's comments, I think in a couple of days I will have been here for 5 months. And, I share this to say I came from an institution where I was only going in once a day per week to being here 5 days per week. And initially it was like, what? I'm going to leave this comfy setup and I'm going to change my life, move 6 hours away, and then start going into work 5 days a week. Now, I'm sure I could have convinced Dr. Bagwell that it was in my best interest to work some of that at home. But the reality is, in order for me to do my job, to do it well, and to learn COA, meet people, learn our community, I needed to be present. I needed to show up. And so in doing that, it's afforded me an opportunity to meet so many of you, whether it's via Zoom or in person, but it's also allowed me to be in the community as well and start to meet some of the people that we partner with. I just want to say on the student success and enrollment management side of the house, a lot of these folks, you're on the call, they come in daily, and we are really changing our conversations to be more about student facing. And starting after spring break, we're planning activities where students can actually be on campus. Now, we will still practice the 3 W's. We will wear our masks, we will wash our hands, and we will wait 6 feet apart because we know that's best practice. But we also understand the importance of being here to serve our students. In a recent risk survey that was conducted in the fall, students wanted that engagement. One of the things is that they felt like it was a challenge is that they didn't have the student-to-student interaction. They also, I think it was 40% of the 554 students who completed the survey for COA expressed a challenge with online learning. So there are definitely, and this was fall 2020, so there's definitely a lot for us to recognize and acknowledge about students and their desires to be able to connect with us in person. And so I just want to thank everyone for what you do, what you have done in the past, what you continue to do today, and the fact that you're willing to show up. It's not easy, but I can tell you I have felt safe here at COA. We do practice this, the 3 W's. We have had in-person meetings. And so if you have questions, if you have concerns, please share those with us. Help us make our decision on how this looks, how the reentry looks, so that we can consider all factors. And we can't do that if you don't share your thoughts, your concerns with us. So just thank you guys for what you do and what you continue to do for the college and for our community.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, anything else before we close out town hall session number 1?
Dr. Bagwell, if I can just add a little bit from the perspective here over in CCR, and thank you, Ms. Burris, for that, because you know, a lot of our instructors are working remote. Most are on campus twice a week, but we do have some that we don't have space to put them. Our classrooms are small. We had to expand over to FC to accommodate one of our classrooms. And prior to the pandemic, we lost a classroom. So we had to work very quickly to find a place to put an instructor in our class. And that's going to be a challenge, of course, for us, is where can we, you know, put instructors so that we can have students come back on campus. Our rooms are small, so our capacity is limited.
I think that's absolutely a conversation that we need to get in and start mapping things out and need people thinking through those. Obviously, we'll be bringing new classrooms online in Currituck, and some things will be moving down to Currituck in short order, which will free up a little bit of space. So we just need, it's a domino effect. We know we're going to have to keep spacing in place. We know we're going to have to keep use of technology in hybrid or mixed courses. So we're just gonna have to figure it out, but we need to boots on the deck to try to figure out what those different moving parts are. I certainly can't, it's not a thought exercise. It's a get in there and see how it's going to work exercise. Thank you, Dr. Gregory. Anything else, folks? Thank you all for what you do, what you continue to do. And I know that the hard work has been put in. We've got a lot of hard work ahead of us, but hopefully a year from now, we'll be looking back and seeing how the recovery occurred and how much better shape we're in this year or next year than we are this year. And at least that's my hope and, you know, my wish for us. So let's make it happen. So appreciate all you do, and y'all take care, be safe. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Mariah, if you're still on, we can chat real quick.